Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Life in a Show podcast. We have a super special episode. We're recording this impromptu. I'll tell you what's happening here. Is like, so every month within Lifeonaire, we have a coach's call to kind of debrief, to learn, to grow, to share what's going on, to share member success stories, and really kind of like cultivate a culture of like all of us together helping our members achieve some awesome things. And we just got done our retreats. Not all of our, some of our coaches right now are actually still in the retreats. Retreats are masterminds. They're essentially an opportunity for people to come together with your group and you share the biggest challenge, the biggest obstacle that you're facing right now. And, you know, if you were to change this one thing, it would make the biggest impact for you, say, in the next 3 to 5 months. And so we're having our coaches call, and I start hearing all these amazing stories from people, from my coaches, and they start telling me, I'm like, well, hold on. We got to share this. Like, this is awesome stuff that I want the world to know about, not only to celebrate our members and to acknowledge them for the incredible things they're doing, but also to, like, for you, the listener, if you're viewing this on YouTube right now, to see the kinds of things that are possible and to give you hope and encouragement for what you yourself can accomplish as well. So on the line right now, we have Jacci and Brett Kunkel. They're a set of coaches. They are, and they have one more coach, Steve Halverson, that is not able to join us today. We got Polish Peter. You guys may recognize this guy. He is the co-host of the Lifeonaire show. When we let him, other days we keep him locked in the basement. Dave Garcia.
You know what? Don't spread the rumors like that. Come on, dude.
We got Dave.
Fancy, save me. Send some kind of it to save me. Get me out of the basement, right?
And then we got Tim Davis, who's co-coach. Susie is actually, so this is kind of cool too. Susie and most of our coaches do this as well, is like, you know, we like to get coached ourselves because that's how we improve and grow. And so Tim is co-coach with Susie, and Susie is in a retreat right now in another group. So super awesome. And so guys, like, I would love, like, let's, you know, I interrupted our conversation as we were going through this stuff, our debriefs for the retreats. And Jacci, you guys started the conversation by sharing some pretty cool stories. Do you want to tell us, first of all, how did the retreat go? And like, tell us some of the things that people have accomplished.
Well, our retreat was amazing. Every single one of our members showed up. There was 2 couples that the spouse didn't make it, but everyone was represented. And we go really deep. I appreciate that about our group. I think we've gotten a really good homeostasis. Is that a word? That's a word. I think it's a word. It's a word. Yeah. But like, just if I had, I was like, oh, do we get to talk about everybody? Well, Joel's like, no. And then I heard 4, and he's like, no, like 2. Well, that's hard to pick, right? Well, we had 18 shares, but I think the highlight for me, as I look at the list, and I have it in front of me, would be a couple from Wisconsin, actually, and they're very young, John and Robin Meyer. They have 3 children, and they have a baby that was at the retreat but still in womb, and that baby will be born in March. So like they're going to be a family of 6. And so as we've been working with them over the last like 6 months, I think like just before last retreat, we were talking with Jonathan, and as an auto body tech, he was at the very top of what he could make. And we just started saying, well, what if there's an opportunity for you to step into something else? Because he doesn't even love what he does. It's not healthy. And he was like, well, I used to do a lot of electrician work beside my dad. And we're like, okay, what could you do with that? And he's like, well, I did so much with him. I could step into taking the test and get the union, and I could make so much more. So he has actually done all of that and has letters of acceptance, and he's moving in. He has opportunities right now outside the union, but then he'll be able to step into the union. And so really cool, he's able to increase that income even in W-2. And we also talked about they needed a bigger house, right? So they were house hacking with an upper lower duplex, and they were like, well, we want to keep that and rent both sides out and get something else. And we just looked at the equity that they have there and the age of the building and the maintenance that comes and managing a family with 4 little kids. Like, do you really want to be going back to a duplex? And just kind of ran the whole thing down. And they made the opportunity to go ahead and put it on the market, not knowing where they'd move, but they're going to rent so they could buy just the right property because they want to be in a specific place with a specific layout with some land. They've got their whole vision for where they live. And so they sold it. It's going to be closing very soon. They're going to walk away with a really nice chunk of change, pay off all their debt, and have another 100,000 left over to be able to invest. So they're going to have, for the very first time in their life, a security account. I believe they chose 20,000, 10 or 20,000 that they're going to set aside. They've never had an emergency account. Now imagine how young these people are. I think of us, right, as OGs. Like, if I could have done this at their age, I wouldn't have had all the issues I had, but I didn't. So there. I didn't have coaches in a mastermind retreat group, right? But they have that because they put themselves first. And so they're able to like have this emergency account. They're going to go rent a bigger home until they find their dream home and all their debts are paid. So their only monthly nut is going to be this rent. And I'm just so excited for them because if they could have drugged this out, barely making it each month, paying down the debt, staying in the same job, I'm telling you guys, I cannot wait to see what happens to this couple a year from this retreat. And then I have a whole bunch more people to talk about, but I probably took too long. So like that's just one story in the room. I don't know.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I love it. So let me ask you one more thing about, so in this transition, I'm curious because there could be people listening right now who don't like what they do. And, maybe they're not making the money they want, or maybe they're making good money. What was it like? How did you position the question and how to get him thinking about other opportunities other than just being in the mechanic's role?
Right. Well, it wasn't a mechanic. He's an auto body tech.
Oh, sorry.
For the other years, what we've been doing is having him go and ask for, he's like, oh, I don't get a raise. Every time he asked for a raise, he got one. But this time he was at the top of what they could pay. There just isn't room in the business to pay him more. And so it was like, okay, well, what are some other opportunities? Because he already knows he doesn't love it. He can't just quit his job and retire right now. They don't have that kind of a life yet. But like, what else can you do in the W-2 world that you wouldn't hate so much and wouldn't be so unhealthy breathing in all the fumes of paint and everything else? And he started thinking. It was just really asking the questions and drawing it out. And he's like, well, my dad's an electrician and I didn't hate working alongside of him and maybe pulling some wires and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, really, sometimes it just comes down to the hard math. Just scratching around on paper, like here are facts of your situation. To really make it better, you got to look at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. So,
And he's amazing at that. He'll just take all their numbers. Okay, here's your debts, here's your income, here's your potential, here's your equity, and bam.
and this isn't going to cut it. So, what can we do to make it work? And then that's where the ideas start coming in. So, we just got to start with the questions, right?
Got it.
There's
Love it.
to get ahead. You can spend less, you can make more, and you can sell some stuff. And so if you can do all three of those things in tandem in one direction or another, all of a sudden you look like a hero. And so how can we tweak each one of those places? Where can you make a little more? Where can you spend a little less or pay off some debt? What can you sell and take that money and pay down some debt so you're spending less? So it's really just that cool, I don't know, but everybody in the room is so excited for them and they're all congratulating them because they're a little bit like, oh gosh, we sold our house, like, oh, we got to find a place. So they're a little bit there, but they're like really excited. And having that retreat room where every single person who's way older than them, some of us are way older, some of them are just a little older, are just like celebrating that and saying, you guys have no idea what you just did. Like, we are so excited for you. And so that has also helped raise their confidence that they made the right decision because it wasn't easy for them. They were really like, who wants to get rid of an asset, right? When they have a good interest rate, it's a duplex, what they got in it for was good. But when we look at the cash flow and like a furnace goes out, their whole year of cash flow just went away. Like it just didn't make sense. But we had to help them see how what seems like going backwards can really be a leap forwards. And so, and having that whole room see what they were barely seeing really helped raise their confidence that they made the right decision.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Peter, do you have something?
No, I mean, that's a really good example of how you sometimes when you go sling back, it can actually shoot you a lot further forward. So that's a great example, Jackie. Wow. Look. So what I'm hearing, the brains behind that operation was actually Brad, not you.
Yeah. Everybody gets excited when Brett gets the calculator out or grabs the computer with your spreadsheet.
It's getting serious.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So let's kind of let's if we have time, we'll come back to you guys for another story there. And you know what? Guys, as we're talking right now, I'm like, I can't help but think how much knowledge and gems you guys drop. That I'm like, man, we need to do this more often and just get the coaches like just pouring into the podcast community. So maybe we'll have a talk offline about you guys. Like, let's do it like doing this more regularly. That'd be awesome. Peter, since you spoke up, man, give us something that you just finished your retreat. Where were you?
Yeah, we were in San Antonio, literally right pretty much by the river walk by Alamo.
Oh, okay. And Jackie, you guys were in Florida this time?
Yeah, we were at Madeira Beach.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Very cool. So Peter, what do you got? Tell us about the retreat and tell us something cool that we can share with the audience.
Well, so I'll give you two examples of a couple of people that have had major strides. One of them who's been with me for a while, and they're at the stage 4, and they have been.
So hold on. Describe stage 4 for new listeners who don't know what that is yet.
So stage 4 is basically your assets are paying for your lifestyle to be able to live.
Your assets.
Yeah. Did you understand the words?
Well, I heard something that could have been conceived differently.
Okay. The transcripts are on the back table. Okay. 3 to 1, 1, 2, 3. Who the heck is bothering me? All right. So going back to the conversation. All right. So this particular person, I mean, they got 2 little kids, and up to this point, he still has a job. And one of the things that we've discovered in his conversation is a lot of his identity was been, put into this particular position because he's been in this position for a very long time. So at the retreat, actually, we had a conversation about that during his share. He actually went first person in the morning, and come lunchtime, he comes back and he goes, "Hey, I want to share something with you guys." And we're like, "What?" And he says, "I just put in my notice tomorrow's my job." So the whole room literally erupted. They're like, "Oh," they're like celebrating and be happy for him and things like that. So it's a very cool. And you know this, like think about it this way: like he doesn't have to work for this job, but a lot of that identity was tied into it. So it's not just sometimes it's not just numbers; it's a mental thing too.
Dude, that is awesome, man. And so was that his biggest reservation about the job? Was like, this is me. I've put so much time into this. This is like, I identify with being an X or whatever that was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was one of those things because he's very pragmatic, how he's thinking.
Okay.
But that was the identity part that kept him holding in there. So that was very cool. And he's got 2 little kids, and now he's got a newborn that's less than a year old. Now he gets to spend with them a lot more time, and that's a very cool thing.
So do you have any tips for anybody who, let's say, like they've been doing something for a long time? There's this thing called sunk cost fallacy, which says that we essentially value things that we have more than things we don't have, which means we can hold on to those things maybe when they don't serve us quite as well as they had in the past, yet we still kind of just, it's like whatever. It's like a stock that's going down that you just, hey, I've had it for 3 years. I'm not going to sell it now. And so how did you get him past that? Any tips for somebody who is having a hard time pulling themselves out of something that they've been in for so long, man, they don't know anything else?
Well, one thing is to just have a realization that is actually what's happening, because I mean, he didn't even see a lot of times that was the whole identity was holding behind him. And then we actually looked in the mirrors, like Brad mentioned a little bit, like, look, this is where you're at. And he had the courage to go, because one of the things that I think that helped him is the room was basically, there was a running joke in Lifeonaire that says when you're at a retreat, and there's 25 other people talking to you, somebody is wrong. Either it's you or them. And, most of the time it's them, right? But what happened in this particular case?
Yeah, that's the joke. Like,
that's the joke,
it's you.
Exactly, right? But what ended up happening, I think he got a realization, because the whole entire room was basically coming together. So listen, you are there, and they were like reoccurring theme. And that gave him the courage from that mastermind to be able to go and take that action. He actually talked to his wife, and she was supportive. She was all behind him and all that kind of stuff. And it was very, very cool to see. So that was a great thing. And I had a bunch of them. Like I will tell you this, one other person that I'm thinking about right now, he just came in about 6 months ago, and he came in by himself in a group. And this guy's been taking some massive action. He is the person who's like huge on growth. I want to grow, and taking massive action. What happened before that, he was kind of all over the place as far as growing, right? So he's growing this thing, then he's growing this thing, then he's growing this thing, like this business and that thing, right? So what we started doing is just having conversation with him, getting more in tune, like being very focused and intentional on one thing, like in his life and in his business. And what has happened in the past he came in June, so it's been a little bit more 6 months now. But this guy has give his life to Jesus. He got baptized. He's spending a lot more time with his kids, actually being intentional. His business starting to grow because he's actually, much more intentional now. His wife wasn't so much interested in Lifeonaire. She was at this past retreat with him. So it was amazing to see that support, and them as a couple, as a married couple, are more in sync together to be able to help them grow the business and, speak to his kids. And he's actually putting much more intentional, putting the values with his kids at home, you know what I mean? And so it's very cool, making their marriage stronger. And they are just amazing human beings. And I can't wait to see what happens for them in the next year, man, especially when this guy is like action, massive action.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, man. Yeah, totally awesome to see that, and super cool, man. They couldn't be with a better coach, man. So awesome. Thanks for sharing, man. Tim,
Well, I will say this, man.
Yeah.
They are doing that in spite of the fact that I'm their coach. All right.
I mean, I didn't want to say that publicly, but I mean, I didn't want to undercut you, but yeah, totally. I mean, it makes it twice as awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Tim, man, tell us how was your retreat, and like what's some stuff going on in your group?
Well, the retreat was fantastic, as always. Just like Jackie said, we went deep. Everybody went deep. Nobody was surface level. So that's the magic of these retreats. Everybody, even if it's their first time, they end up going deeper than they ever thought they would. So I love
Wait, let me interrupt you, man. Can I tell people why that's so important?
Well, there's other masterminds that people have belonged to, and they tell me the same thing, that we don't get very deep. It's all surface level. It's all just, business or whatever. If your life is not right and your marriage life is not right, your business life isn't going to be right. So you need to go deep and fix all that before you try to fix your business. So I think there's a lot of emotional issues and hangups and mindsets that need to be corrected before you can really take off in your business. But yeah, we had a great retreat, and a lot of laughter, and some tears shed. And, as people had their breakthroughs, and they went to deeper than they ever knew they needed to go. So it was fantastic. But yeah, I'll share the story with one of our students. His name is Scott. His wife has not been able to ever attend a retreat live, but she always jumps on the phone and listens to his turn, and she shares with his turn because she has to stay home and take care of their 4 kids. But when he started Lifeonaire, he owned a title company that was making okay money, but it wasn't quite enough to support their lifestyle. So he had tried flipping a couple of houses, and he decided, well, that's just not right for me. That's not what I'm made to do. Well, since you know how to run a title company, why don't you just buy another title company? And he's, well, I don't have the money to buy a title company. So now I'm sure there's somebody out there who has an established title company who's ready to retire, who will sell it to you, owner financing. So I had never thought of that. So he started researching, and sure enough, he found a title company in another state that he bought owner financing, and they're very, very backwards as far as the way they do business. It's all analog. There's nothing digital. So he's in the process of helping them digitize their business and get it to the 21st century. But he does it all remotely. And so he was able, because of that move there, he spent most of last year traveling the country with his wife and 4 kids, doing house sitting, completely free. They would go do house sitting for 1 or 2 weeks, just all over the country. They went everywhere they ever thought they wanted to go, from New England to Florida and everywhere in between. So they were able to spend the entire year with their 4 kids, homeschooling them while they traveled from city to city, and house set in different places. Most of that was house sitting was because, the people who owned the house had pets that needed to be tended to. So they got to, milk goats and all kinds of crazy stuff on their trip. So they made a lifetime of memories on that trip, and they couldn't have done it had they had to go to a job every day. So
That's amazing, man.
it
And
is.
so tell me, like, what is the projections for the so right? So am I understanding correctly? He'll have 2 title companies, or he's closing the first one, or he's gonna have both? What's the deal with that?
Well, he's got 2 title companies right now. He's kind of on the fence. At first, his whole idea was he's going to save all these rural title companies around the country that were getting eaten up by the big giant corporations. That was kind of his mission at first, and he is having second thoughts now because I think he's making enough from what he's got going on now to support his lifestyle.
Gotcha.
So he doesn't have to do that, but he may. See, we'll see how that works out.
So I love this, man, and I have a question for you here. So this is a cool illustration of, like, when you're and the reason I'm bringing this up is because sometimes people work past the solution, right? They're like, and by the way, guys, please, like, I want all of you guys to chime in on any of these shares too. Just don't, I'm not the only one who has to say anything here, but, like, he gets this business going. It's providing all of his needs, and it puts you in a different vantage point. Like, is this what I want? Is this my vision? Is there more? Does this other thing, these aspirations for, taking over and saving all these title companies fit my vision? Is it bringing me closer to my vision, or is it getting me further away? And when you start to have that freedom and the flexibility in making those decisions and the clarity with, of course, all this is vision driven, now you kind of have these, you can move those shells around a little bit differently.
Yeah, when is enough enough is a question we all have to answer. Because eventually enough is enough, To do more, you got to have another reason for doing more than you need more stuff.
Yeah.
Some people have the vision, they want to give more away. They want to provide for people in need. They want to give to their church. They want to give to other charities. That's why they want to go out and hustle and make more, but not because they need it.
Right. And again, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like, it's like, hey, but I think for a lot of people, it starts to get, like, at some point you reach, and by the way, maybe this is a creativity bottleneck, or it's a structure bottleneck, but at some point you're like, hey, I've reached this point of enough, but now, like, any further will start to impact my vision. And so you kind of tinker around that boundary, thinking of ways to kind of continue making more if it fits your vision, while not compromising the things that are most important to you. And so I love that, man. That's so cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, we heard the question asked, and has anybody ever kept their lifestyle? In other words, I'm going to live on this much, but I'm going to make as much as I can past that and give the rest of it away.
Yeah.
So that was profound.
Yeah. I love that, man. Thanks for sharing, dude.
Sure.
Dave, what's up, man?
Hey, you saved the best for last, I see.
So where were you guys, Dave?
We were in Florida as well. We're in Orlando.
Okay. Got it. I guess, there's a theme here. Like, I guess the Lifeonaire is like, hey, in the winter months, it could be colder. Let's get out of, like, Wisconsin. Let's get out of Detroit. Let's go somewhere warm. Let's go somewhere nice. Yeah. Love it,
Yeah,
man.
definitely. We go to the warmer areas in the winter for sure. So I've got something to ask you guys. As coaches, you ever notice a theme happen throughout your retreat? It's always, about a certain issue or problem or mindset. It always seems to follow a trend. And it's funny because if you've listened to today, as you guys have all spoken, it's been about a transition of job and how, change of job or growth or quit jobs. And it's funny because I could have picked probably any one of 10 or 12 different students, but the one that I kind of stuck out or resonated with as you guys were talking was students of mine, John and Kathleen. When they first joined Lifeonaire, they both were working crazy hours. She worked in a hospital, made great money. He was in technology and was a contract worker. He made great money. They had some debt, but it was more their time that they wanted to buy back. They were doing some real estate stuff, and they thought that was the direction they wanted to go, but it was going to take a long time because, buying rental houses and, making small margins, having them leveraged was just going to take a decent amount of time. After the first retreat, they kind of changed gears and went towards laundromats. And they bought their first laundromat within months of making the decision that that's the direction they were going to go. And almost immediately, John was able to step out of his job because of the amount of money they were going to make from owning the laundromats. And a second opportunity came up, which was really cool. And so they took that down, using some investors from Lifeonaire, from our group, to buy the second one. And the really cool part was the guy who sold it really, I don't think, understood what he had. They had a pickup and delivery service that the guy kind of mentioned that they did, and turns out that was a county-wide contract for low income and elderly people, and we're talking like to the tune of like $100,000 a year, and that was nowhere like in the evaluation of when we looked at the numbers. They're like, oh yeah, it's small, like 15,000-20,000, so it didn't really affect the numbers all that much. The value of this place has like gone up hundreds of thousands of dollars. But now Kathleen's been able to quit her job and she's opened up her own practice. And, instead of making $70-$80 an hour, she's now making $150-$200 an hour. And so her business is starting to grow, starting to take shape, starting to take form, which is really cool. And it's neat because while I'm coaching with them directly, they're also, through their mastermind or not their mastermind, through their accountability groups, they're also getting a lot of encouragement and push along the way, both from John dealing with the issues that the laundromat brings up, because the delivery service is growing so much. He's got staffing issues, making sure he's got the right people in place. But even for him, being able to fire somebody was never an issue, like our option in the past. Just before the retreat, he's like, I had to let him go. He wasn't the right fit, and so now he's making decisions so much quicker. And it's just cool to see how great their life has become just in a short period of time. And they're just awesome people. I mean, I love them to death. And that's just one of many.
That's so cool, dude. I know John and Kathleen. They're amazing. It's so cool. This is where like I love hearing these stories. It's so cool, and sharing in those and celebrating their success. Um, you mentioned something, accountability groups. So this is, and just I can't talk, for clarification.
And English is not so easy now,
It's
is
not,
it?
man. It is not. Yeah.
Make fun of
And
me.
so, so Dave, these are just what, small kind of pods of people within your larger mastermind. And I know, I think several of you
Yeah.
guys have these as well. Yeah, this is what these are.
So I say we, but I know the other coaches do this as well. We encourage our group to get with 4 or 5 people that are going to keep them challenged in between our coaching and the retreats. It's just another way to have some pure accountability. It's often, it's funny because I'll get calls from some of the students going, hey, just so you know, like Peter's really struggling with this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But they're like telling each other, and it's not, it's not to be, not a good friend. It was more like, hey, I'm really worried about this. And, or I'll in coaching calls, I'll just randomly ask like, hey, how's the accountability group going? It's funny how everybody wants accountability, but nobody really wants to give it, right? Or vice versa, maybe, right? Everybody
Yeah.
wants to give it, but nobody wants to take it. That's probably the better way to say it. But I've been working the last year really hard with the students on, listen, why waste your time and show up for an hour and a half every week or every other week to an accountability call if you're not going to hold each other accountable? If you're just going to get on the phone and say hi, don't make an accountability call. Just randomly call and say, hey, what's going on, man? Right?
Right.
And so don't know what clicked, but something's changed in those groups. And man, they're just every group, they're like, hey, man, it was great being with you guys, but I'm going to go over here now and try this group, and they're reforming new groups. And it's just cool to see the growth that's happening, in between, outside of what I'm doing as their coach. And that's pretty neat, to to just see that transformation and growth.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Listen, all of you guys have amazing stories. We're wrapping it up though. Like, I'd love to know if you guys have any like takeaways or like last words of wisdom to people that might be listening right now.
Well, I will say this, man. I mean, listening to the coaches, the listener, what I want you to get out of this particular podcast episode is notice the commonalities, right? One, you have someone that is pouring into you, looking from the outside in to be able to help you see a different picture that you've been in this picture for a very long time, right? Two, do you have some kind of a support group that is going to be able to pour into you, that is non-judgmental, that's coming from a place of love, that's going to be able to help you and move on to the next thing. And then obviously, notice every single one of these stories talking about action. People are taking action, and people are taking action that is actually going towards that vision elements, not just action for the sake of action, but it's actual, moving you forward kind of an action. And that's when the accountability comes in. That's when, people are supporting each other comes in. And I think that is the formula, I think, a lot of times to be able to success. Because as entrepreneurs, what we do typically, we just do it by ourselves, right? Me. And it's flip that script for yourself. Find people in your life who can be there for you in that way, that capacity, and you'll be surprised what you'll be able to accomplish.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Anybody else have anything?
Lifeonaire is all about pouring into one another. There's no competition between the students, between the people, the members. You have some people who are already very successful and almost living or are living stage board. You got some people who are young, just getting started out. There's no, looking down on the ones who are just getting started. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's helping them get a foothold faster than they ever did. It's amazing and how fast the bonds grow in the groups. It's just like one retreat and everybody's best friends.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we had 3 members who almost didn't make it. Like, they had to push through the weeds to get themselves there. And part of it was the encouragement of the rest of the group going, man, like, you really need to be here. So whatever it takes, get here. And I think it's fair to say those 3 walked away with the most from the retreat. And so just getting themselves there, they were the ones that left with the fullest cup, with the biggest action steps, with the biggest changes and movement forward, and their visions are so much more clear, and they're like on the road. And so you stop and think about, they had the opportunity to get through the weeds and get there. And then you think about all the people out there who maybe went to Get a Life workshop or a business builder workshop, or they heard about Lifeonaire and didn't even make it that far, and how hard it is to imagine that they don't even have that opportunity to say, yeah, I'm going to get there. So I would say that if anybody's listening to this podcast and you've heard anything from Lifeonaire, take the next step, whether it's getting to a workshop or you've been to a workshop, maybe looking into a gold or a titanium membership, because it truly does move every single person forward. Some people take a little longer because they're just a harder shell to crack because life has been in their way. But I would say 100% of the people who have come through the room, and I'm sure I can speak for every single group here, they've moved forward and they have accomplished anywhere from something to great things to unimaginable things. But if you don't have the opportunity to put your butt in the seat and yourself in the room, you don't even know what you're missing.
Mm.
I would agree. I think the very first step, the next action to take would be to get to a Get a Life.
And
Well, thank you guys. Listen, Timmy, you have something else?
I was going to say, it's not an expense to be in Lifeonaire. It's an investment that will pay back tenfold.
Mm.
I mean, so
It literally, actually, literally in real dollars, we've seen it over and over again. Yeah. Investment.
Peter, did you raise your hand?
No, get out of your own way and just
Yeah.
go and do something. You know what I
Love
mean?
it.
Most of the time you find the people getting in their own way.
That's so true, man. Well, listen, if you guys got something out of the episode, we'd love for you to share this or give it a thumbs up. If you want to learn more about Lifeonaire events or the membership, just go to lifeonaire.com. There's plenty of information. There's all the information you need over there. And On behalf of the coaches, who, by the way, I'm so thankful for you guys and the lives you're changing, for our members that are putting their trust with us and investing with us along their journey. I hope you guys get something and do something with this so that you can live the life you dream of and create a business that thrives as well. All right, we'll see you next week, everyone. Take care.